Vatican buried, heavily suppressed Gnostic texts, almost 2,000 years old. Jesus tricked everybody. Mary Magdalene and Jesus were in love. Now, this is the Gospel of Philip, the Nag Hammadi scriptures. If you do any research into the Nag Hammadi, heavily suppressed, the Vatican and other institutions and Christian religions did their best to squash any Gnostic texts that were out there. And they thought that they burnt and buried and destroyed all of them. But some of them in 1945 were uncovered in jars in Nag Hammadi, Egypt, in a cave. So thank goodness. It's interesting how we often get the version of history from the victors. Well, how about an alternative version from the people that were heavily suppressed? And why was there such a campaign to destroy any information that didn't meet certain requirements within the church and the Vatican and the Pope and the hegemony that was included with that industry, I like to call it, the industry of false hopes? Well, these Gnostic texts, let me read this to you real quick. The Gospel of Philip. I've handpicked several paragraphs, and it's like 100 degrees in my garage right now, so if I'm sweating a little bit, I apologize. But let me read this to you guys. The Gospel of Philip, inheriting the living and the dead. A slave seeks only to be free and does not seek the master's estate. For a child, it is not enough to be a child, but a child claims the father's inheritance. Heirs to the deed are dead, and what they inherit is dead. Heirs to the living are alive, and they inherit both the living and the dead. The dead inherit nothing, for how could a dead person inherit? If a dead person inherits the living will not die, and the dead will come to life. That's a pretty interesting metaphor there, very symbolic. So this one is Jesus, Gentiles, and Christians. A Gentile does not die, never having been alive, as so to die. One who has believed in truth is alive, but the person is at risk of dying just by being alive. Since Christ came, the world has been created, cities have been beautified, and the dead have been buried. When we were Hebrews, we were orphans, but only a mother. We were orphans with only a mother, but when we became Christians, as had a father and a mother. This is Christ came. Christ came to purchase some, to save some, to redeem some. He purchased strangers and made them his own. And he brought back his own whom he had laid down of his own will as a deposit. Not only when he had appeared did he lay down his own soul, his own will as a deposit, but from the beginning of the world he laid down the soul for the proper moment according to his will. Then he came forth to take it back, since it had been laid down as a deposit. It had been fallen into the hands of robbers and had been stolen, but he saved it. And he redeemed the good in the world and the bad. Light and darkness, life and death, and right and left are siblings of one another, and inseparable. For this reason the good are not good, the bad are not bad. Life is not life, and death is not death. Each will dissolve into its original nature. But what is superior to the world cannot be dissolved, for it is eternal. So I want to take a time out right there. That sounds like the quantum physics that has been verified again and again with empirical data. Some of the most brilliant minds in the universe, or at least on this planet, have uncovered this holographic quantum nature that we're in, and that's describing it right there in these ancient Gnostic texts. So I think that's fascinating. Words and names. The names of worldly things are utterly deceptive, for they turn the heart from what is real to what is unreal. Whoever hears the word God thinks not of what is real, but rather of what is unreal. So also with the words Father, Son, Holy Spirit, life, light, resurrection, church, and all the rest. People do not think of what is real, but of what is unreal. Though the words refer to what is real, the words that are heard belong to the world. Do not be deceived. If words belong to the eternal realm, they would never be pronounced in the world, nor would they designate worldly things. They would refer to what is in the eternal realm. So, words and names. How many times have I said before? Titles, words, spells, they bind you. They are firewalls. They limit you. People say, oh, I'm Christian. Oh, I'm atheist. Oh, I'm Muslim. Oh, I'm agnostic. Oh, I'm pagan. Oh, I'm a worshiper of the flying spaghetti monster. Literally, they have a church of the flying spaghetti monster. You're labeling yourself. You're limiting yourself to that perception. And a lot of people like to do that. That's fine. If anything, hey, good for you guys. Keep limiting yourself. I appreciate that. It makes it easier for me to be more creative, I guess, because if everybody wants to be a walking zombie and limit themselves to certain parameters, right on. That's fine. I mean, I've shared with you guys this before, and I think a lot of you agree with me on that, and that's probably why you listen to Leak Project. Part of the reason why. And some of you just like to troll the comment section, and hey, that's cool too. Thanks for being here too. So, now let's get into light and darkness. No, we just did that one. So words and names, just did that one. The name of the Father. This is interesting. This is very interesting, actually. Only one name is not pronounced in the world. The name of the Father gave the Son. It is the name above all. It is the Father's name, for the Son would not have become Father if he had not put on the Father's name. Those who have this name understand it, but do not speak it. Those who do not have it cannot understand it. That reminds me of that. That reminds me of that Bruce Campbell video where he was, or commercial, where he was doing a commercial for Old Spice. Literally, that was that right there. So, if you don't have it, you'll never have it. And if you have it, you know what it is. 1 second. Had to wipe the sweat off my face. All right, is that better?
Nanu, nanu, nanu. We come in peace. We come in peace.
So, you've got... It's getting more interesting now. The Archons. Talks about the Archons here. So, you were waiting for the fun stuff. Here we go. The rulers wanted to fool people since they saw that people have a kinship with what is truly good. They took the names of the good and assigned them to what is not good, to fool people with names and link the names to what is not good. So as if they are doing people a favor, they take the names from what is not good and transfer them to the good, in their own way of thinking, for they wish to take free people and enslave them forever. Does that not sound like what's going on right now? What's up is down, what's down is up, what's left is right, what's right is left. Oh, yeah, you don't know what you want? Okay, well, just do whatever you want because you don't have any identity anyway.
Oh, ho, 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 ho. Saw, you choose. Do you want to cut your arm off with the saw over there and live? Or do you want to die, stuck to your own shit? Handcuffed to solidified shit that got integrated with nanotechnology that turned into gray goo. Then it started to morph out of you. And then all you could smell was feces, all this incredible E. coli feces. And then after that, after the E. coli feces surrounded you, what happened? You cut your arm off. And you lived.
That's like the movies that come out now, right? I mean, it's just, gotta love it. I guess. I mean, I'm not really into that kind of stuff. But so, the Archons, just flipping everything upside down. And also that makes me think of these deities that are linked as bad and dark and evil now. And that people will use as icons of evil and deceit and wickedness. And maybe what this is referring to is certain deities that a lot of people look at as negative and evil. What if they're actually the good guys and gals? What if they're the ones that are attempting to wake up and free humanity? It's interesting, folks, because most people I don't relate to at all. And I'm pleasantly surprised how many people out there think along similar lines that I do. It gives me hope because most people out there, I want to help them, but I don't want to hang out with them. You know what I mean? It's like, I almost feel like my purpose is to help wake as many people up as I can. And at the same time, I still wouldn't, like a lot of these people that are so close-minded and attack me for my beliefs and my sincere appreciation for freedom and helping others obtain their own freedom, that it would be difficult. It's difficult for them, so that's why they put on that attack mode, and I understand, because they don't want to accept it oftentimes, and it's so far above what they're used to thinking, it breaks them out of their paradigm that they can't even get out of. How much from the past, how many entities and beings have attempted to awaken us and help free us, but because of other forces, they use them as the scapegoat, as the bad guy, as the ones that are actually evil, when it could be the exact opposite. It reminds me of an X-Files show that I saw once, where there were these two pastors. One was a pastor of a church that used snakes to find out if somebody was evil or not by if they got bit, right? Because if they did, then okay, then Jesus didn't save them, the angels didn't save them, according to the episode. It's according to an episode. It's a TV show. Don't freak out. But then there was this other pastor guy that looked like really nice, genuine, sincere, and he was a part of a medium-sized church, looked like your regular neighbor next door that would be a pastor or go to church or something. And during the series, or during the episode, you're trying to figure out which one's good and which one's bad, and they're painting the picture as the one that's bad is the guy that's dealing with the snake. So really, most people at the beginning, throughout most of the episode, think that the bad guy, the bad pastor, is the one with the snakes. And rightfully so. Most people are like, what the heck are they doing with snakes and putting them around people and kids? Why would they even do that? I mean, it sounds totally crazy. But to make a long story short, at the end of the episode, the Dark Lord came out of the pastor that looked like that you thought was the good guy, trying to help people. That was the bad guy, and the good guy was the pastor with the snakes. I mean, you guys, we've been mind-foiked for so long. It's difficult to even understand. If people tell me, they give me a hard time, like, Rex, you attack Christians so much, blah, blah, blah. I don't attack Christians nearly as much as they attack me. And I will repeat this as I repeated in the comment section. I have friends and family that are Christians. I was raised Christian. It's not Christian people that I am, as you would say, attacking. It's the false pretext, the repeating, the ignorance and attacking of myself and others that think like me based upon their ignorance and their repeating lifestyle. And does that mean that the Christ isn't real? No, absolutely not. Does that mean that I don't believe in God? No, absolutely not. That just means I don't believe in the stories that we've been force-fed for thousands of years. And people cling on to these Bibles as if they're written by God, or they're written by the hand of God, as God working through these people. And then they'll attack Sumerian tablets or Gnostic teachings. And say, well, just because it's older doesn't make it right. Well, that's totally correct. The Sumerian tablets could be older versions of the National Enquirer type. I get it. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. And it could also be, there could be some truth in there. There's actually truth oftentimes you find out in stories that come out of the National Enquirer. You have to use your own intuition, and you have to cross-reference it with other tablets and other stories and other timelines and cultures, and really dive deep to get to as close to the bottom of it as you can. So once you do that, it will give you a better understanding of what at least the people wanted you to think back then. And what's to say that the Bible that you're reading out of, that you're clinging onto and you're praising, is any more legit than the tablets that you're attacking? If anything, it's the opposite. So to each their own. To each their own. But that's a point I wanted to make very clear. These old tablets could very well be the description that the elites wanted you to have. Of course it is. Of course it is. And oftentimes, there's those out there that will be independent scholars, independent researchers like myself, like you, like others that listen to Leak Project, right? That will take that information that they find genuine and independent and get it out to the masses. Get it out to as many people as they can, one way or the other. You have to shift through it. You have to filter through it. Like a lot of these Gnostic texts here are incredible. I totally resonate with a lot of what this stuff says, and I totally do not resonate with a lot of stuff it says. So let's go to some more here. The forces. There are forces that do favors for people. They do not want people to come to salvation, but they want their own existence to continue. For if people come to salvation, sacrifice will stop, and animals will not be offered up to the forces. In fact, those to whom sacrifices were made were animals. The animals were offered up alive, and after being offered, they died. But a human being was offered up to God dead, and the human being came alive. The forces. That sounds like the serpent archons in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. not the archons above. The archons above are the Anunnaki, but the forces below that, that reminds me of the serpent archons that feed through blood. Bingo. Nanu, nanu, nanu. Christ brought bread. Oh, and just so you guys know, there's like betting spreads now on the Nanu Nanus. There's actually people that are betting on how often I'm going to say it and what time I'm going to say it. And there's very intelligent people that break down numerology and psychology and codes and graphs and stuff. And they're actually sending me very detailed emails on the times that I say Nanu Nanu. So, yeah. I mean, there you go. It's the Nanu Nanus got a whole life of their own. The Nanunnaki, as above, so below. The nano-sized Anunnaki. Yet, what is the difference in infinite space? How is something really any bigger than the other in infinity? Because you can't really compare it to a finite location. So, yes, it might be bigger in perception, yet does that actually make it larger in infinity? Very interesting to think about nonetheless. And yeah, I coined that myself. Well, I'm sure somebody else has thought of it before also. Usually happens. I'm going to have 15 comments in the comment section. They already thought of that. So thank you for that idea. The Christ brought bread. Before Christ came, there was no bread in the world. Just a paradise. Oh, so just paradise. No bread, but paradise. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? Before Christ came, there was no bread in the world. Just as paradise. Oh, just as paradise. I apologize. I thought it said just a paradise. I was like, what? See, it's kind of dark in here right now. The text is small, and some people say I could do better with reading glasses. Whatever. Before Christ came, there was no bread in the world. Just as paradise, where Adam lived, had many trees for animal food, but no wheat for human food, and people ate like animals. But when Christ, the perfect human, came, he brought bread from heaven, that humans might be fed with human food. Thank goodness. 1 second. Whew. It's a little bit warm in here. It's okay. This is good too, right here. The archons and the Holy Spirit, the rulers, thought they did all they did by their own power and will, but the Holy Spirit was secretly accomplishing all through them by the Spirit's will. So even the Anunnaki are influenced by the Holy Spirit according to these Gnostic texts. So that's awesome. So they're doing the work somehow for the Holy Spirit, the divine force. That's fascinating. To what extent? For what purpose? For duality? Is this for us to experience duality? Did they come down here to create this matrix for us to experience duality and as a boot camp break out of the Baba Kakra? Break free from the demon of death, Yama? Break free. Phew! That's what I'm talking about. So, Mary conceiving. I haven't got to the real interesting stuff yet. Mary conceiving. Some said Mary became pregnant by the Holy Spirit. They are wrong and do not know what they are saying. When did a woman ever get pregnant by a woman? Mary is the virgin whom none of the powers defiled. This is greatly repugnant to the Hebrews, who are the apostles and apostolic persons. This virgin whom none of the powers defiled wished that the powers would defile themselves. What does that mean? In just a minute, I'm going to get to the relations that her and Jesus had. Oh, this is the coolest song that's playing right now. Breathing you in when I want you out. Finding our truth in a whole world of doubt. Nice. The master said to the disciples, "Take something from every house and bring it to the Father's house. But do not still while in the Father's house and take something away." This is from take from every house. What does that mean? Does that mean take knowledge? You know, I mean, not like you're stealing something from somebody, but you're taking knowledge by learning, and then you're taking that up into heaven. But when you're in heaven, he's saying, don't take what you have up there down to earth. It's interesting. Jesus is a hidden name. Jesus is a hidden name. Christ is a revealed name. The name Jesus does not exist in any other language, but he is called by the name Jesus. The word for Christ in Syriac is Messias, and in Greek is Christos, and likewise all the other people have a word for it in their own language. The Nazarene is the revealed form of the hidden name. So, Christos, that makes me think of Kronos, the devourer, the Saturn god, devouring his children to stay rejuvenated. Maybe it's the opposite of Kronos. Christ has everything. Christ has everything within himself, whether human or angel or mystery, and the Father. Jesus tricked everyone. Jesus tricked everyone. Jesus tricked everyone, for he did not appear as he was, but he appeared so that he could be seen. He appeared to everyone. He appeared to the great as great. He appeared to the small as small. He appeared to the angels as an angel, and as humans as a human. For this reason, his word was hidden from everyone. Some looked at him and thought they saw themselves. But when he appeared to his disciples in glory upon the mountains, he was not small, he became great. Or rather, he made the disciples great so they could see him in his greatness. That's pretty cool. Now, this is very interesting. 3 women named Mary. 3 women always walked with the Master. Mary, his mother, his sister, and Mary of Magdala, who is called his companion, for Mary is the name of his sister, his mother, and his companion. Holy Spirit and evil forces. Evil forces serve the saints, for they have been blinded by the Holy Spirit into thinking that they are helping their own people when they really are helping the saints. So a disciple once asked the Master for something from the world, and he said, "Ask your mother, and she will give you something from another realm." What? All right, so I do see that, the saints that the Vatican Church praises, right here, it's saying they're evil. What do you have to say about that, guys? Man, no wonder it's getting so hot in here, right? I'm in hell right now.
And I like it.
It's pretty cool. I mean, if this is hell, I mean, it's hot and cool at the same time. Bingo! No, this isn't hell. This is the nexus point of the heavens and the hells. It's like we're in this central point right here. So, Adam and Cain, this is an interesting one right here. The one created was noble, and you would expect his children to be noble. If he had not been created, but rather had been conceived, you would expect his offspring to be noble. But in fact, he was created, and then he produced offspring. And what nobility this is. First came adultery, then murder. One was born of adultery, for he was the son of the serpent. He became a murderer like his father, and he killed his brother. Every act of sexual intercourse between those unlike each other is adultery. Well, according to this, that would totally describe the serpent line, the different bloodlines. Is the serpent Enki? And is Enki the good guy or the bad guy? Are they taking, is this true or is this false? Very interesting. I mean, obviously, if Enki is the way that he's described in this paragraph, that's bad, in my opinion. But what we know, what do we know? I mean, how accurate is this? That's what I want to know. Don't you? Wouldn't it be great if we could jump in a time machine, go back, and just and then see what happened, so we could make our own decision and not have to rely on these texts and other scribes and translations and conclusions and our own thought process combined with all that? Wouldn't it be neat if we could actually really, really know for sure who the good guy was and who the bad guy was? Because just above, they're even saying, they're like, well, like right here. We were just there. The forces. There are forces that do favors for people. They do not want people to come to salvation, but they want their own existence to continue. For if people come to salvation, sacrifice will stop. The animals will not be offered up to the forces. In fact, those to whom the sacrifices were made animals, these animals were offered up alive, blah, 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 blah. So, there you go. So they're saying, we're going to flip everything around. There's entities that flip everything around. So, how do we know this is any more accurate than this paragraph? And, I don't know, just, this is the kind of stuff that just can drive somebody into so many rabbit holes that they have to really just go with their gut sometimes. Because there's so many variables. And even though there's so many dots that connect, are those dots falsified? Okay, I got one more paragraph and then I'm done for now. This world, the resurrection, and the middle. A person is either in this world or in the resurrection, or in the middle place. May I not be found there. In this world there is good and evil, but the good of the world is not really good, and the evil of this world is not really evil. After this world there is evil that is really evil. This is called the middle. The middle is death. As long as we are in the world, we should acquire resurrection, so that when we take off the flesh, we may be found in rest and not wander in the middle. For many go astray on the way. That's a deep paragraph right there, because that makes you realize that even though the most wicked things you see today in physical form, they're saying that's not evil, but there's stuff that's so evil beyond that once you leave this physical meat suit and transition in the middle. That reminds me of the great demon in the sky that's talked about, the demon Yama, demon of death. I mean, there's a lot of connections to that as well. So I just find it fascinating how different people at different times would interpret things different ways. Really, it's important. What I feel is even just as important, folks, or more important, is we need to know about the lives of the scribes that put these texts together, that put this information together. That's just as important. Who wrote what they wrote? What was their purpose? What was their reason for writing it? Are they doing it for entertainment purposes? Are they doing it for a job? Is it their career? A lot of people would do that for their careers. They were scribes, and they were paid very well. Were they doing it to be a side thorn, like a thorn in somebody's side? Like, were they doing it because that was their path, and they just wanted to get the truth out no matter what, whether they were working at a 9-to-5 job or working in their garage or in their abode? What do you think? Doesn't matter what I think. What do you think? I can't wait to hear your opinions, and thank you for being here with me. And hopefully you don't mind the heat in the garage. I don't mind it. I mean, I'm okay with it. So make sure to support our sponsors, getthetea.com. You should check this stuff out. It's called Pine Bark Extract. This stuff is awesome, and it's cheap. Getthetea.com. Also, get your D365 tabs if you want some good detox pills. These are really good for detox. So thank you for being here with me. Have a beautiful day. Question everything, and be the change you want to see.